Marhaba, my name is Megan, and welcome to Wanderlust Voyages. Well, we are normally here to tell you all about Morocco. Today we're going to continue our American recipe series for our wonderful Moroccan viewers. Today we're going to talk about pancakes. Now, when I first started learning to make Moroccan food, one of the interesting things I kept coming across is that every time I was hearing about missemen, it was referred to as a Moroccan pancake. Well, as an American, this was very misleading because while missemen is indeed cooked in a pan and it is very delicious, it is very much not a pancake by American standards. It is much more a type of bread. Bagrier would be much closer to what Americans know as pancakes because it's soft, it's spongy, but whereas bagrier is only cooked on one side, American pancakes are cooked on both sides. They're also a lot fluffier and they are very tender and a little bit more like a cake. So they are very much just cakes that you make in a pan. Now, I'm going to show you how to make a very basic pancake recipe. Once you have a good basic recipe, you can modify it however you would like. You can add other spices, other toppings, other add-ins like fruit or nuts or even candy if you really want to make it more of a dessert than a breakfast. However, it is traditionally a breakfast food here in the US, and so however you want to do it, you can make it as healthy or as sugar-laden as you would like. But let me give you the basic recipe. Let's go get started. So to make American pancakes, you're going to need a few very basic ingredients. The first is 1 cup of all-purpose flour. Now, it's not as heavy as bread flour, it's not as light as cake flour, it's just a good all-purpose flour. 1 cup of milk, preferably whole milk. However, if you have a sensitivity to dairy, then any plant-based milk will also do. 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of butter that has been melted and cooled. Again, if you have a sensitivity to dairy, you can replace it with 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. We have 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. You can substitute this with vanilla powder. And then we're going to need 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. So to begin, we're going to start by whisking our egg. Just want to get that broken up first so that it can blend well into the other ingredients. Now this is why you need your melted butter to be cooled, because when you add it to the egg, you don't want the hot butter to start scrambling the egg. And your milk as well. All of your ingredients should be room temperature. You don't want them to be straight out of the fridge, because if you have cold milk and the warm butter, you're going to re-solidify that butter and it's not going to blend evenly. And your vanilla extract. You want all of the wet ingredients together. Then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. This can be substituted with sweetener of your choice, such as honey or agave syrup. We want 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Do not confuse it with baking soda. You do need the baking powder. And your flour. So you want to whisk this together just until it's combined. Having a couple of clumps of flour or streaks is actually going to make your pancakes a little bit fluffier and taste a little bit better. If you would like, you can also add other flavors at this time as well. If you want to use other extracts such as almond extract, or if you want to add a bit of cinnamon or nutmeg to add some spice to it, you can also do that. If you want to make fruit pancakes, you can add fresh blueberries or other frozen blueberries, cranberries, other intact fruits. If you want to add something like bananas or sliced strawberries, that is best done in the pan. If you want to add chocolate chips, it can be either now or in the pan. So now that this is just barely combined, we're going to go over to the stove and cook them. Okay, you want to have a pan that is large enough to cook a couple pancakes at a time, ideally just to cut your cooking time. It doesn't matter if it is non-stick or not. If it is not non-stick, you may need to use a bit more oil or butter. So give it a couple of minutes to warm. This will also give your batter a chance to rest and to develop more bubbles. If you have a spray oil, you can give it a quick spray. Otherwise, a quick brush with oil or butter as well. Now, the first pancake typically cooks a little bit wonky. So if you have a little trouble with the first one, don't worry about it. That is totally normal. Now, the amount of batter is ultimately up to you. However, kind of a standard size is about 1/4 cup, so I just use a 1/4 cup measuring cup to portion it out. So these are going to take a few minutes to cook on each side. You want it to be over a medium heat, medium to medium low. You don't want them to brown too quickly. And at this size pancakes, it's going to take maybe 2 to 3 minutes. And unlike the Moroccan bagrir, we are going to flip it over and cook on the other side. Now, as I mentioned, if you want to do fruit pancakes, such as bananas or sliced strawberries, now is when you would put it on. You want to give it about a minute to begin to form a crust on the bottom so that they don't just sink straight through to the pan, but you can put sliced strawberries or sliced bananas or even sprinkle chocolate chips on them at this point. So we're going to give that just a little bit to cook, and we'll be back in a minute to flip them. Okay, so you can see how after they've been cooking for a couple minutes, the edges are starting to dry, there's bubbles formed. That's when you know it's probably good. And if you're not quite sure, you can take a little peek. Just look under there. Oh, let's see if we can do that side. It's just starting to get golden. So this is good to flip. You'll want a spatula to do the entire thing. Sometimes it does a little bit of a splat. So this is just on the pale side. Unfortunately, my stove doesn't always cook the most evenly. When that's the case, you may need to move the pan around a little bit to make sure everything is cooked nice and evenly. So we're going to flip it and let it cook for another 2 to 3 minutes on the second side. That one looks perfect. So we'll be back in just a moment to show you how to finish them. Okay, so it looks like our pancakes are nice and perfectly golden on the other side. So those are ready to come out. They look beautiful. So what we're going to do now is to top the pancakes. While a lot of people like to use maple syrup, I really like to make a fruit syrup. So let me show you how to do that. So to make a quick fruit syrup, you're just going to need a jam of your choice. I'm going to use a cranberry jam that I made. It is wonderful. It's got orange and spices in there. And How much you use is really going to be dependent on how much you would like on your pancakes, how thick the jam is. I don't use a whole lot because Bilgit prefers to put honey on his pancakes, or amlu if we have it. But you're going to add to that a bit of water. You want to do this over a medium heat and just whisk it together. Might have been a little much water, so I'm going to give that just a moment to boil off some of that liquid. So don't worry if you get too much, just boil it for a minute or two. That liquid will evaporate, and then you'll have a nice rich fruit syrup to put on your pancakes. And there you have it, a beautiful stack of fluffy American pancakes topped with butter and a delicious cranberry syrup. Bon appetit, and I hope you enjoy your breakfast.